fitness today has a lot to do with that. Today I have two beautiful kids. I still try to maintain the kind of fitness journey I had. If you're physically feeling good, like you're just able to do well in every, like probably helping your child with their homework, packing your child's lunchbox. Like I just come back home after that good workout to being positive with everything else I do. The whole breastfeeding journey as a new mom, it's just not feeding the child. Like there's so much more that happens when you're doing that. A lactating mother, it's the nights are tough, like all of it, and then your upper body is kind of always leaning down. And please make sure you have someone to help you out. It could be your husband, your mother, your mother-in-law.
Women's fitness specialist, Fit India ambassador, guiding women and new mothers become fitter and stronger. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Akshitha ma'am. She's going to be talking to us about motherhood, women's health, and a lot more. So welcome Akshitha ma'am, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your personal health and well-being story and your current work?
Right. Hi. Thanks for having me here. And I'm just glad to be passing over information. So yes, that's a pretty nice introduction you gave. I am actually a former international tennis player, and my, fitness today has a lot to do with that. Today I have two beautiful kids. I still try to maintain the kind of fitness journey I had by making some tweaks, which I'll probably be sharing with you all today, and how I managed to do it. And I'm also an educationist. So that's by profession, and fitness is, and will always be my passion. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us, and we are so grateful to have you on the podcast today. And so let's dive into our topics today. To begin with, like you said, you have been an athlete and you've always probably had that lifestyle even before becoming a mother and the years of training, right? But has your approach to fitness changed in any way after you became a mother? And were there any challenges? Did you have to modify the way you were doing it before and later?
Approach definitely not change in terms of how I see fitness mentally, but the way I get it done, process of it is kind of changed. After becoming a mother, I do figure out ways of getting it done every day, because obviously there are other priorities that have come in.
Understood. And how do you fit in fitness or schedule your workouts with your schedule right now with the kids and with everything, with responsibilities and work? Because a lot of women find that difficult. It's especially difficult if someone does not have an active lifestyle before becoming a mother, right? Because then it becomes a lot. Like it's just like you're starting new after you've delivered, and then you probably step in the gym for the first time. Then you're a new mother as well. There's work as well. So there's a lot of things happening. So how was it for you? How did you fit this into your schedule right now?
I think you've answered half of that question, because, for someone like me, I know how the whole journey is, to get started and to kind of figure a way out. And it's a little more, you can do it. But for someone who's really new, I would kind of suggest that firstly, you have to kind of visualize and schedule a particular time in the day for this. Otherwise, it can get very tasking. And I would rather say you get it done as much as possible in the morning than, keep pushing it towards the end of the day, because, there's a lot of other things that pile up, and you don't want this to be an additional, and you don't want to be seeing it as a burden. Just go out there in the morning. Just try to wake up a little earlier than before everything else starts. And trust me, once you start seeing how it's working for you, that becomes your motivation to start going back again, and it forms such a virtuous cycle. Like everything's connected to how you're feeling physically, like not only today, from the beginning of time. I just feel like if you're physically feeling good, like you're just able to do well in every, like probably helping your child with their homework, packing your child's lunchbox. Like I just come back home after that good workout to being positive with everything else I do. So I think that should be your motivation to kind of go back the next day, and obviously you'll start seeing the changes physically too.
Absolutely. And was there an idea about you including your kids? Like, did you have this in your mind, about your parenting style in any way that, this is the way that I would want to include my children in my workouts? Or did you want them to see you in a certain way, so that, because, when what you do is what your kids also do, they mirror you, they see you, and that's what they do, right? So was there something you had in your mind that, this is what I would do? And what do you do today as well? Like, do you work out with them? Do you plan the activities accordingly that, you all move as a family together? How does it?
So when I had my first, not so much, because I'm also an educationist, like I said, and I'm into early childhood education. So I did did tend towards a more gentle parenting approach with the first one, and then sport does want you to kind of toughen up. So I think that you can start putting in once they're around 5-6 years of age, and they kind of understand and relate. But throughout all the early childhood years also, he would see me like, because I would predominantly, especially when you're a new mother, work out at home. So you're telling them, not telling them, that demonstration is happening every day at some point, and he kind of sees and says this is normal, like to do all of this, to kind of sweat it out, and my mom is doing this, which means it's a normal thing to do. And today when like he plays a sport, and when I ask him to push himself, or when I say something, he kind of doesn't question it back so much, because he's seen it, like he feels like, oh, this is right, like this is how you do it. It's not something out of the blue that my mom is telling me. So I think a lot of it depends on you demonstrating rather than kind of keep saying it. I think modeling kind of came in here a lot.
And that's true, because I'm sure that a lot of our listeners, many Indian households, we grew up with parents who probably never went to the gym, or they probably never went played sport. People who are in the army or stuff like that, they tend to be in communities and circles who do that, but not many. Like with me, for myself, I've seen my parents or my friends' parents only go for a walk when they had diabetes, and the doctor said that now you have to go for a walk, or now you have to go and train in the gym or something. So it's not something you grew up seeing always. So having this environment can be amazing, like you said, to make it the normal environment for them, because that's not what we thought of us growing up, right? Because we always have seen, most of the time we've seen movement attached to something that you have to do, like it's prescribed to you, like because you're sick, or it's just the medical condition that you want to help, right? So it's great that now there's so many changes, especially so many mothers like you, like they look so strong and fit. I mean, even fitter than people in their 20s, right? And doing workouts with their children and whatnot, and it's become the normal thing, because you see like 3 or 4 year old kids modeling their parents, and they are doing the squats at home and showing them, like, mom, let's do this. So it's actually great that we are slowly moving towards this and creating this kind of environment for us, right?
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that. And like a lot of new mothers, unfortunately, when we think about fitness, about probably getting back to the body, it's always about losing weight, or it's about looking a certain way, some or the other way, because that's the fear in mind of many people, right? But what many people don't realize is what it actually does for you. Like you said, how you feel every day and how you show up for work. So can you tell us some scenarios where you were so grateful for your fitness and what you've done for yourself as a parent, that it helped you or in your work life? Because it's important to understand what other benefits are there to than just losing weight, or just for a medical condition, or just to look like your older self.
So I think where it's really helped me, is I think early postpartum, both times, because you've heard people talk about it being tough and all of that, but some of the things don't really sink in until it actually happens to you. Like, I thought I was well prepared, but then the whole breastfeeding journey as a new mom, it's just not feeding the child. Like, there's so much more that happens when you're doing that. A lactating mother, it's the nights are tough, like all of it, and then your upper body is kind of always leaning down. And so since I kind of had this fitness journey going pre-pregnancy, through pregnancy, and even early postpartum, I kind of started because I knew when I was ready, and I was kind of, the fitness level was there, forget about the weight, all of that. So I really felt like it gave me that empowered feeling to kind of I would always tell myself, no, this is not tough, like it just made me so strong that back pains or the upper back tightness, like all of that didn't really come in the way of, like, I felt like I didn't go into any kind of a mental barrier or depression because I was kind of fit. I knew that I could handle it, and once I kept telling myself that mentally, because I knew physically I was there, it was like a vice versa thing, like the journey became a lot more smoother. So I just feel like just being fit kind of helped that body part, and which kind of helped me mentally too, to stay sane through early postpartum. So I think that is where it really helped when it comes to a challenging phase, and when fitness kind of really stood up in my life and helped me. And even otherwise, like traveling with a toddler, like I would travel alone a lot of times, and I would just have to like lift him, change his diaper, cues are there, like all of that. It just made everything more positive. I was not someone who would just keep cribbing because I had to do it and my body was probably giving up on me, and so I think it just made everything else more positive, which I think was a game changer. So I really have my fitness to thank for that.
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, these things look small, like the things that you do every day, especially after becoming a new mom, like just picking up the baby and maybe walking with them or just doing little things looks simple, but sometimes many women struggle with that as well, right? Because there's just so many changes your body is going through in that phase, and I mean mentally,
True.
physically, there's major change, major transformation for you. So these things might look small, but and many women don't talk about it, but so many women also have to be on bed rest even after delivering, because I've seen
Yes.
my clients as well who talk about how they were not allowed to do anything for 6 months. So you wouldn't know that until you reach that phase. So it's so important for everyone, even the women in the early 20s right now, to take strength training
Yes.
seriously and to start training from this age itself.
That's
Because
true.
I remember when I once went for a fitness training course, our professor told us exactly that today women are becoming too late to start their fitness. Like, when they conceive, is because the awareness is so much. We see so many videos or trainers training pregnant women, that there's an awareness, but it's at a pretty late stage. Like when women conceive is when they probably get a trainer and start training, and they have never maybe done anything before that, right? So but it's so important to train our pelvic floor, to train our body from years before we ever plan to conceive, because
True.
that has a major impact on our mental state and our physical state, right?
True.
So thank you for sharing that.
That actually brings me to this point where, it really motivates me to keep sharing on wherever, like Instagram and whatever social media platform, because so many young girls are like, I want to be like you when I have 2 kids. And that's the kind of mentality that's setting. Like, I feel really happy when I come across girls who are like, whatever, 18, 19, and they're like, I see myself like that one day. I want to be like that. And I'm like, good. So at least that seed is implanted. So you know what you have to start doing for that. So when you said late, like there are the people who are impacting, and the awareness is definitely there. It's just that I feel like a lot of ladies keep pushing it because they're like, okay, chalo, when the time comes I'll see it. Yeah, but I really feel like the awareness is going up, and all thanks to social media. But please try and get the right people to help you. That's the only thing that I like you mentioned.
Exactly, like rightly said, because when I was growing up, I would see like my aunts or my mom's friends, or someone who's just become a new mother, and as a young girl, like looking at them probably suffer through this. I had such even my friends, so many of us, even today, we have such a negative connection with pregnancy, this fear already. Because we probably see so many women who never get back to feeling like themselves. They live decades after having a baby, and they always say that, right? Like every day they'll say like, these are my old pictures, this is my old life, and I don't feel like that. So there's a fear of losing yourself completely through the process. But thanks to women like you and so many other fit moms who are showing that it's possible, because looking at them, it's like they are even more fitter than us, than being in our 20s, right? So that's a great future to look forward to, and definitely the fear association with that has come down because of seeing more women like you, and I hope that does increase as well.
Yeah, I truly agree with all of that, everything that you said.
And lastly, because this can get quite overwhelming, I'm sure maybe not so much for you, because you look like a person who has it all together. And like because of your fitness and being an athlete, I mean, you need to maintain a certain mindset all through your life, right? Because you have to go through ups and downs even before you take up motherhood, right? But what is your idea of self-care today? Because I'm sure even today there are just so many things that you're doing, and with 2 kids and your responsibilities. So what's your idea of self-care?
I'll be very honest, like for an athlete, I think that little bit of competitiveness never really leaves you. For me, probably self-care is just going and getting a tennis session, while I can, like completely. And in fact, I share content on that also. So, for me, going and playing for an hour is like self-care. Like I'd probably give up getting a manicure or pedicure done for that. So it really depends on how you define it for yourself. But like I said, scheduling really helps. Like whatever you want to do, you want to go, talk to a friend for an hour, come back. Or your thing is like to kind of go socialize at an event and come back. Choose to do it, but then kind of schedule it, and please make sure you have someone to help you out. It could be your husband, your mother, your mother-in-law, or your co-sister. It could be anyone, but just make sure you have that help, at least whatever, if you want to do it once a week, twice a week. But scheduling it makes it very, very easy for everybody around you and for the kids. Another thing that you could do, this comes from my educationist background, at least till 5 to 6 years of age, completely dedicate your time when you're kind of with your child. You're nurturing their mind. So the minute you start telling them, reasoning to them why you're doing something, it sits in their head. Well, like for example, example, I would always like talking about the older one because he's already like pretty big now. So when I reason out now and tell him, listen, but I'm going out to meet my friends and I need to do this, because he kind of understands. Like he will probably sulk and say, why do you need to go in the beginning? But then he kind of relates. He's like, okay, I understand. And then you really have to reason with your child before you kind of take off. So if that is done and you have help, they're also more independent because you've been nurturing them well. It's a whole process. You don't have to plan so much, but just be there present, when you're actually with your child. I think a lot of it kind of sets, pace when you do that right.
That makes so much sense, and that communication is so important because many mothers face this mom guilt even when they are just taking the hour of their day for themselves, especially if the child is sick or something, maybe baby's sleeping and there is help at home, but there's just still so much guilt for taking time for yourself because you feel so much responsibility right over that, and there's just so much connection and so many changes happening. So that's really an interesting point, and I'm sure that, and kids do understand because maybe you yourself did not grow up seeing that or having that communication with your parents, but they will understand when you tell them, and maybe they'll be even more supportive than anyone else in your family. Tell them that this is how I want this to be, it's my time, or I want to do this for myself. So I hope that women prioritize themselves also and their self-care, because it's very easy to be overly consumed in the first few years of being a new mom and maybe just not schedule time for yourself, and that doesn't help anyone. So definitely scheduling time for self-care is important. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the end of the episode today. Do you have any last thoughts or messages to leave us?
I think that's about it. And the traditional practices that we have, that's one more thing I keep emphasizing, when I take sessions or any of my clients get back when it comes to nutrition or fitness. I'm like, you have like a grandmother or somebody telling you something's right. There will be some, scientific reasoning behind it. Coming from our, country, there is a lot of culture and tradition, and especially early postpartum. Don't neglect it fully. You know how much you can, kind of take in, absorb, and whatever's working for you and what you think will work for you, go ahead and try to follow it. Like just an example is try to keep yourself warm in early postpartum. Drink warm water, don't eat a lot of harsh, spicy food. So things like this do have a scientific backup, just see if you can relate to them and pick up how much you can. You don't have to do everything, as per what they're saying. So that's one thing that really helped me. So yeah, I think that's the point.
Of course. There's so much, information out there today that it creates so much decision fatigue that even when you know what's best, but you just go on Instagram and there'll be 3 reels about how it's not good for you. There'll be research backing everything. So it's so overwhelming that at the end we forget that there's so much power within what has been passed on to us generationally.
Exactly.
But as for some or the other reason, right?
I mean, they're live living examples like your grandmom, and they've birthed like children, like this. Right. Of course, they've done it right because there was something true to how they did it. It's so I'm saying obviously the generation has changed. There's so much progress, there's technical developments, all of that. So just kind of take in what you think will fit in today, as of today, and make it work for you. That's I think something a lot of doctors now, a lot of them say, no, you can eat everything, you're done, just go home and just get on with it. It's okay if you're breastfeeding, but there are certain impacts, so just an example.
That was a beautiful message. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and for being on the podcast. That's it for today's episode.